Welcome back to the 3x5 Live
podcast.
On this podcast, we talk about mindset, mindfulness, productivity, everything personal development. Last week, we celebrated 100 episodes.
We sure did.
We almost just packed it in.
No, we didn't.
So this is 101, crossed the threshold. And this week, I wanted to talk about hate. And not in the context you think. And the advice that I recently heard regarding hate, I wish I would have heard years ago, because I think it would have reframed and added some clarity to conversation, some feelings that I had with within my peer group, within family members, and things of that nature. So Alex Hormozi, who I'm guessing a lot of people have heard of him. He really has blown up the internet over the last year. I was listening to a podcast where he was being interviewed. He just came out with a new book recently, so he's been on a ton of podcasts. And it was really taking his tweets, these quotes that he's had, and then riffing on them for a little while. That was the structure of the interview, which was really interesting. So one of his quotes that he said is, "Hatred isn't something you avoid. It's a prerequisite for success. If you get no hate, you are not successful. So don't avoid it. Look at it as a leading indicator that you're on the right path." And this quote really hit me between the eyes. It's very common within your peer group that you're all trying to climb the same mountain. You try to get to the same peak. And then if you're that one anomaly that sees that bigger mountain in the future and you try to climb that, it's just human nature that your peer group that are on the smaller mountain behind you are going to try to pull you back to where they are because it threatens them. It puts them in this state of mind where, you know, you're almost trying to be better, or you think you're better than they are because you want to achieve something bigger. They'll celebrate you on the way up to where they are, but once you start really going past them, a large portion of the population you'll experience some pushback.
Absolutely. It reminds me of that the crabs in the bucket theory, where if you have like a bunch of crabs in a bucket and they are like trying to get out and they realize that they can't, they'll just like stop trying. But if you enter that new crab into that bucket and that crab starts to be successful and get out, then the rest of the crabs that were already in the bucket will pull that crab back down. So it like basically like sabotages the success of escaping.
Yes, exactly.
I forget even where I heard that.
I don't know. That's a good one. So Alex was actually, when on this interview, he was talking about, he was at this family gathering and recently, and a family member said to him, you know, "I would never want your life. It's so out of bounds." And Alex has an amazing relationship with his wife. He's very fit. He has a very successful business. So he said, you know, what's out of bounds? Is my health and wellness out of bounds? Is my relationship with my wife, who is a co-owner of my business, out of bounds? Is my financials out of bounds? And it really came down to them just being threatened that they're not living to their greatest potential, and he is. That really struck the nerve with that family member.
I think any time that you're doing something that is, I don't want to say counterculture, but maybe like different or unique or just like out of the norm. I mean, I got this pushback and strange questions around like our homeschooling journey. I think preconceived notions and misconceptions about what something is like looks like, if people don't understand it, they immediately question it. And that type of questioning from those family members, I think, is like a defense mechanism. Like, I would never want your life because it looks like, is like a judgment call to make them feel better that they're not doing the same type of thing. But I think a lot of it comes from just like lack of understanding and willingness to truly understand. Like I love the way that Alex pushed back and asked questions. Like, I tend to go on the defensive and over explain why homeschooling is great. And I've actually learned to stop doing that, to over explain things that I'm doing in a way to get people to understand. So I love the idea of like asking questions back, right? Like, if they say, "How do your kids socialize?" Right? And I say, "Okay, well, what does socialization look like for you and your family?" Right? So like kind of flipping that script allows maybe a greater dialogue instead of like going on the defensive automatically.
Yeah, exactly. And the leading indicator of success, that portion of the quote was really interesting as well, because let's say you want to, quit drinking for a while,
You did that.
which I did. And I actually, from people very unexpected, were giving me some peer pressure and very questioning why I was doing it. But now let's just say you wanted to do that and suddenly you start getting pressure, or you want to, go to the gym and you're like, you know what, I'm sick of this body. I am going to shred it down. And you start getting some heat for like you taking the time to do that. Now, I want to give you permission to smile internally and say, I guess I'm on the right path. If I am getting pushback, if I am getting hate for this new lifestyle I'm trying to lead, going plant-based, or this me quitting a vice like alcohol, and I'm getting pressure, that just shows me that I'm going in the right direction.
And I think even if you're feeling, I love that in it, but I think too, like if you're on that path, it can feel lonely sometimes if you don't surround yourself with people who are on similar trajectories. I mean, I was just having this conversation with my best friend yesterday that I'm very lucky that in my relationship with Bryan, we are on similar paths and we challenge each other to continue to get better. We've talked about that self-actualization journey and how you can't become the best version of yourself if you're not learning and growing. But if you are surrounding yourself with people who are, I don't want to say stuck, but maybe just not on that same mountain with you, it can feel lonely. And so, I mean, I don't know that we have the best like advice in that, but like find the people who want to travel the mountain with you. Create, and if you can't, then continue to seek like groups of like podcasts or information or things that validate what you're doing, that there are other people in the world who are also doing those things. That validation can be so helpful in continuing to push you to not become stagnant, not to go back down the mountain, to just like keep pushing through.
Yeah. And I think I took this from the lens of when I was going through some peer group pushback, I would have lots of conversations with Jessie about it. And I was hurt. I honestly was hurt, and I was struggling. And there was one situation where I was probably talking and ruminating?
Ruminating, yeah.
Yeah, on it for 3-4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And now in hindsight, looking back, if I would have reframed it per Alex's quote, I would have just been like, all right, this is just part of the process, And so that's what I really want to give, the listeners permission that, hey, it's almost celebrate the hate in a way. As awkward and as weird as that sounds, celebrate it, because that means you're doing something different. That means you're challenging the norm, the status quo, and you're pushing yourself to new levels.
Absolutely.
So that's what we had today.
So embrace the hate.
Embrace the hate.
That should be what we're going to leave you with.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, until next week, have a
great one. See ya.
We are all love.